Hi, welcome to Visa Answer. Let's take a look at the most prominent question, as in how to get work rights in a first world country like Australia or Canada. Now, there is no doubts about it that the Canadian and the Australian government are in desperate need of professionals like yourself. So they need engineers, doctors, IT professionals, nurses, and the list is about 24 pages long for Australia and about 60 or 70 pages long in the Canadian immigration system. Now, the thing is, are you in demand? So it is not possible for us to tell you over the video that you are in demand or not. So you can get in touch with us, send us a detailed resume, we'll do an assessment and send it back to you, and that too for free, of course. We don't charge anything for assessment. So that will actually tell you that if your occupation is in demand or not. Now, the other question is, your profession might be in demand, but can you migrate? Because there are some factors which can go against you. Like, for example, if you're above 45, you cannot migrate to Australia. If you're above 55, the question doesn't arise. Then you probably are looking at investment visas and all that. Similarly, the Canadians don't actually stop you in that age, but they stop giving you points. Now, what am I talking about points? So let's come down and talk about how does the Canadian and the Australian government, the point test or the system pretty much for both the countries are same. So I'll discuss both the point test here in this video, but the similarities will be taken together so that it's easier for you to understand whether you qualify for Australia or for Canada. So your selection criteria is based on a point test. You have to qualify either 65 or 67 points for Canada and Australia, and you're ranked or you're given points based on your age, English, experience, education, and then there are factors like your spouse's English level and their education, and if you've studied in Australia or Canada, you have relatives there and whatnot. So we'll look into all these point tests today in detail. Before I get into the point test, let me give you a slight idea what's the category or what is the name of the visas in these two countries which you should be looking at. So in Australia or in Canada, what category of visa would you apply actually depends upon if you have a job offer or you don't have a job offer. So if you have a job offer, the visa categories are 494, 482, and there's a big regime of sponsored visas. So in this, basically you would get a job offer and you get sponsored by the employer, and then the process is taken. It's a little tedious but not impossible. Then there are visa categories which you can apply without the job offer, as in it's called the skilled visas. Now both Canada and Australia have skilled visa categories. Canada has one category, a federal skilled worker category, and then there are provincial nominee programs integrated within this program, the federal skilled worker. So the categories where you don't require a work permit are called the skilled worker visas for Australia, and they start with 189, 190 and a 491. Now the federal skilled worker program again is a point tested program in Canada, where you again get tested on age, English, experience and various factors. Again, then the Canadians have provincial nominee program. You go and reach a province. So let me also explain what the state sponsorship and the provincial nominee programs are. For example, you make XYZ points and you are in the pool. So you've applied, you've given your expression of interest to the government of Canada and Australia, and you're waiting and you're not getting the visa because there are people in the queue who are scoring more than what you are, and you're not getting the visa. So now keep in mind that these visas are capped by numbers. What do I mean by capped by numbers? That means the number of visas to be granted in a year are fixed. So what does the government do? Do they work on a system which is first in, first out, or they rank you, or they give you the visas, or they invite you based on the invitation you have, the scores you have? So basically it's a merit-based system. So the more you score, the sooner you will get the invite to come and apply for the visa. So the game here is to beat the competition and get into the invitation round, like get invited by the government in the invitation round. Usually before COVID, there were two rounds happening both in Canada and Australia in a month, and they would actually come down and invite 1,500, 2,000 people to come and apply for the visa, and you apply for the visa and so on. So let me explain you more in detail how this is done. So basically, you go and put up an expression of interest. So if I have to explain you what an expression of interest is, an expression of interest is basically a proposal from your side, from your family, that you want to come and live in Canada or in Australia. And you tell them that, look, I'm making this points, and would you accept me as a permanent resident? Now the government actually puts you on a hierarchy sort of points test. So it's like a pyramid. The higher you go, the lesser the competition would be, but the points increase. And at the bottom, you have the most people sitting at the base level, because that's what people make. And the governments are very choosy, and they've got smart with this. Earlier, the system used to be like, let's say about 10 years ago, it used to be FIFO, first in, first out. So who applied first would actually get the visa first, but it's not happening anymore. Ever since they got in the new system, which is the express entry or the EOI system in Canada, in Australia, now the visa is granted based on the more you score. Now, how do you score more? Your age is kind of fixed, your education is fixed, or even if it is not fixed, you have a bachelor's degree. We don't expect you to go and do a master's just because you want to migrate. It'll take you 2 years. By that time, you've lost points in your age. So it's like this, right? So you lose time, you lose points in age, you probably are gaining points in your experience, right? So there are very few factors where you can actually play around with it. So what's the factor which actually governs the whole game? Is the sponsorship by the Australian government. Now, what are these? Now, these are that you would actually say yes to live in a state which needs you. So both Canada and Australia, the provinces in Canada and the states in Australia, will come up with an occupation demand list. Now, these demand lists are according to their industries in that country. For example, a state in Australia is very good with tourism and with manufacturing. A B state could probably be very good with agriculture, and they don't have anything with tourism. So if I compare the demand list with A with B, the A being very good with tourism, they would need people from tourism industry, and their occupation list would have hotel model managers, tour guides, and stuff like, which actually helps them grow. And it actually works for you as well, because you would choose that state because you would get a job there, and that's where the whole purpose is. This is where the whole motive is, to make money, to have a good life. What's the point going to a state where there is no tourism and you are a hospitality or a tourism industry person? You don't have a job, so you probably are changing your job, or you're struggling. So what's the point moving? You're better off living where you are if you're not making money in your new country. So the state sponsorships have a dual face here. They help you in dual functionality. One, you are in demand, you get extra points. B, you also get a job, and it's easier for you and your family to settle there. So how does this go? This actually happens like when you put up an expression of interest with the government of Canada or Australia. We take that expression of interest and we go and sell you practically. This will make more sense because you are more adaptable to that state, and that state is also in need of your skills. So it's a marriage which is a win-win situation for both of them. And what you get is extra points in the EOI system. So you excel for, let's say you are in your mid 30s or you're in your late 30s or early 40s, and there is no way you can make points. What if you jump the queue and you get into the provincial nominee program in Canada and you get a nomination certificate and you jump the queue? So that's where you get in, ahead of the competition. Similarly, in state sponsorship, you get picked up from the EOI pool. We call it a pool where everybody's sitting. So you get invited by that. Right? So on the screen now you would see the point test for Australia and Canada, and I can actually guide you with this. I'll give you a brief description, and we'll start with the the Canadian one first. Let's look at the Canadian point test. It comes under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, and let's see how you can make points. It's 67 points which you have to make in this. So the 6 main factors in this are your age, language. So language, it could be either French or English. They both get regarded as equal. So you could make one as your first language and the second as your second language. Like for most of the people, English could be the first language, and French would be second if you know French, or you don't get any points for French. And then the third is experience, then education, adaptability, and arrange employment. So we will look at all these to see. Now I remind you again, this is the eligibility to get into the pool, and thereafter you have the CRS score where you get ranked into the pool and you get invitations upon the CRS score. So Canada has 2 point tests. So you also want to see how much you make in the CRS score. I'll show you what's the latest as on July 24, what the rounds are, and we'll also look at the Australian one later on. So let's get on to this point. So age. If you're under 18, you do not get any points. 18 to 35 is maximum, 12 points. 36 to 11, and as you grow older, by each year you lose 1 point. So like 37 will get you 10, 38 is 9, and so on and so off. And after 47, you do not get any points. You can lodge your application. You are not ineligible after 47. Unlike the Australian system, it stops you from putting an application after 45. So that's how the age works. Let's get on to the language, where the first language could be English or French, whichever is stronger. And based on the CLB score, which is the Canadian language benchmark, so if you get 9 plus, CLB 9 plus, you get 6 points for each component: speaking, listening, reading, writing. And if you get CLB 8, you get 5 for each component. So basically you make, if you have CLB 9 plus, you make 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. So 6 into 4, about 24 points. And if you're CLB 8, that means you make 20 points. And CLB 7 is basically the lowest point. You have to get CLB 7 to bare minimum. That's the minimum eligibility criteria which you need, with CLB 7 as 4 each component. And then the second language could be French or English, whichever you choose. You have to get CLB 5 plus, which gets you 4 points, and anything below CLB 4 will not get you any points. So that was language. Then you come on to the education. Very simple. Starts with high school, 12 years of school, 5 points. 12 years of school and 1 year diploma, 15. 12 years of school and 2 years diploma will get you 19. Bachelor's degree, 21. If you have 2 bachelor's degrees, sometimes you have like a bachelor's with like a BA, BEd, like, for teachers, you get 22. Master's will get you 23, and a PhD is 24. So as simple as that. There could be, some combinations with double masters and whatnot, and you can get back to us. As we always say, send us your resume and we can do this point test. It looks simple, but sometimes it gets little tedious. Like sometimes you will have like double diploma or a bachelor's degree, a postgraduate diploma. So to do this, the education, you have to get a WES done, a WES or ECA done, like the Education Credential Assessment. So there are different bodies. The other day we did a full video on this to tell you, there are various bodies in Canada who does the ECA. All right. Moving ahead, factor 4, experience. Very simple. It starts with 1 year of experience, 9 points. 2 to 3 years of experience, 11 points. 4 to 5 years of experience, 13 points. And 6 plus get you 15 points. Right. So that's the maximum. So even if you have 10 years of experience, that's 15 what you will get. If you have anything less than 1 year, you will not get any points. Then comes adaptability. Now mind that a lot of people get confused here. I've seen agents making mistake as well in this. Adaptability will give you maximum 10 points. So if your partner can score CLB 4, you get 5 points.
you've studied in Canada, you get 5 points. Your spouse has studied in Canada, you get 5 points. Work experience in Canada, you get 10 points. Spouse working in Canada, you get 5 points. Arrange employment offer 5, and if you have relatives 5. So like for my example, apart from the job offer, I can score in all these factors, but the maximum I will get is 5 points in this, right? The sixth one is you get 10 points if you have a valid job offer from Canada, and that's the basic point test concluded.
So the Australian point test goes something like this. On your screen you can see the first factor we talk about is age. Now anybody who's less than 18 does not get any points. So 18 to 24 you get points, which are about 25 points, and then from 25 to 32 you get the maximum points, which are 30. Now that also shows that the Australian government is actually targeting this niche here, that you should be under 30 if you're looking at migrating. That's a prime age. So if you are under that age group, you should be considering this, that if you miss this opportunity, this will never come back. And as you get 33 to 39, you get 25 points, so you lose 5. And then from 40 to 44 is the last bracket, where you again lose some points and you get down to the least available points in the age category, which is 15 points. And after 45, Australia will not let you put up an application. Right. Now, then the next category is English. Now you can give a number of English exams like PTE, TOEFL, IELTS, and the Australian system has actually categorized this into 3 components. So the basic one, where you get 6 each, I'm basing IELTS as being the most popular. So I'll base the IELTS, and then you can actually do the similar conversion to PTE or whatever exam you feel is easier for you, right? So you can give there's an occupation English test as well, OET, IELTS, TOEFL, PTE. You can give Cambridge Academic as well. So the first one is component, which is 6 each. Then comes proficient, which comes 7 each, and then comes the superior English, which is 8 each. Now, based on what you score, you will get points. So component just gets you eligibility to get into the pool. So it's 6 each, you don't get any points, but you are eligible to get into the pool. So if you enter the 7 each, which is the proficient, you get 10 points, and then if you are 8 each, that's superior, where you get 20 points in each, right? So let's come down to the overseas experience. Now, the Australian system gives you points from minimum 3 years, and as you grow into 8 years, you get maximum points about 50, right? So if there are brackets 3 to 4, 5 to 7, and then 8 and above, you get points with that. You also get points if you have worked in Australia, which is very rare for the offshore applicants, but if you have, you get points for that as well. And in that category, you get points like with the overseas experience, the point test starts from 3 years. But here, if you have experience within Australia, the point test starts, or you start getting points if you only have 1 year of experience. Then comes the qualification. I would say here, I'll start with the maximum one. Whether you have a master's or a bachelor's degree, the Australian system kind of gets you the same points, which is 15. And then as you get a diploma, or you have a higher version of a doctorate or something, so like a PhD or a doctorate, so you get the maximum points, which is about 20 points, right? And for a bachelor's, you get 15, and as you have a diploma, 2 years or whatever, so you get less points, which is 10. You also get points for study in Australia, which again is rare for offshore applicants, but if you have, you do get points for studying in Australia. Then you do get points for studying in regional Australia. Now anything, I'm just giving you a ballpark figure with the Australian system, anything not in Australia or in Canada, anything not in Sydney or in Melbourne is considered to be regional. So you get 5 points for that. Then there are specialist qualification. If you've studied in STEM, engineering, science, technology, you get extra points for that. And now, this is what I love about the Australian system, is they are accepting multiculturalism. You do get points for your own language. So if you are an Arabic speaking person, or you are a Hindi speaking person, or you from Philippines speak Tagalog, you will give a translation exam. So if you are from the Arabic speaking nation, so you'll be given a translation exam where you will translate from Arabic to English and English to Arabic, and if you pass, they will give you 5 extra points. So that's called a NATI exam, or the technical word is called a community language exam, and you give that and you get extra points, right? As I told you, here the competition is so harsh that you cannot miss a single point. Every factor is so important, because if you're doing it, do it wholeheartedly. You got to put in whole effort, and you don't have to lose any points here, because probably somebody from the same profession, same age group has done NATI, so they will always get the invitation before you, and you don't know how many engineers or how many IT people are actually preparing in the streets of New Delhi or in the streets of Cairo, and you have to face. It's a global competition. The last 2 factors are partner qualification points. So if you're not married, you get 10 points, and if you're married and your partner is under 45, your partner has a bachelor's degree, belongs to the same occupation list as you are, and he or she has competent English, that is 6 each, you get about 10 points. There are factors where they get 5 points as well. And then the very last factor is a professional year. Now this professional year can be, there are 5 points for this, and you can gain these 5 points if you there's a small course which you have to do. I think it's about 8 or 9 months, and basically people from accounting and IT profession do this course. And once you complete this course, mostly kids who study in Australia do this professional course instead of going and working in the industry. So very few people from overseas actually get to claim this professional year, because you might not have the facility to attend these professional years in your country. Now that you know the various CRS distribution, as in how much score you have and the number of candidates lying in the pool, let's look at the invitation scores, as in when the invitations happen and what score the invitation happens and how many people get instructed. Now to find that out yourself, because today is 21st of August 24, so as on today's date in August 24, the latest draw, the number was 310, which happened in August 15, 2024. The French language proficiency, there were 2,000 invitations issued at the CRS score of 394. And then 309, the invitation round up here on August 14 was Canadian experience class. Now these are people who have experience working in Canada, and number of invitations were 3,200 at the CRS score of 509. Now, and you can go on and check the latest. You see, nothing is less than 400. Even if I go to Feb 24, 534, so the lowest you would see is 410. That's also French people who speak French. 420 again French, so that's the lowest. 400 French, and again 394 for French speaking people. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that you need to know how much you score as into CRS, because the previous point test we did in the presentation was 67 points. Everybody will be eligible, and this is where you are, the facts are hidden. This is exactly what people will not tell you, that if you're not scoring about 500s, you will not get the Canadian visa. And now how do you get that? That's the way out. You get through the provincial nominee program, and if you don't have a job offer, I've told you that we do have a tool which is My Job Bank. Helps you get a job offer, and that can help you get the PNP as well. Now that's on a later stage for some other day to tell you how you do that, or you can get in touch with us. Let me show you how you can calculate your own comprehensive ranking system. So that's on the government website. So that's ircc.canada.ca English/migrate/skilled CRS tool ASP, and you go here and that'll actually check you on these 5 criteria on your skill, education, language, work experience and other factors, and ask you questions as in, are you married or not? If you are,
Let's say you're married. Is your spouse a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident? You say no. Will your spouse be coming with you? You go, yes, they will be. And how old are you? And that's so on and so on. So let's say I'm just assuming 35 years level of education. Now that's based on your ECA, so you should have an ECA. If you don't have an ECA, just make a while, just assess yourself. If you have a bachelor's degree, mostly people have bachelor's degree, put it up here and, have you earned a Canadian degree? Most of the people won't. And then official language, so that's where, if you've given an IELTS exam or, the French exam, so you give your score up here, IELTS, PT, DEF for the Canadian, the French, and self-pack journal, whatever, and then they'll ask you for your scores, and so I'll just assume that you've scored high, and then any other language if you can, if you're given French. I'm just assuming that you don't know French, and work experience. So in the last 10 years, how many years of work experience we have in Canada and asking? So most of us who are offshore, we will not have it. If you have it, then you can put it. And in 10 years experience we have, like that's offshore, like most of us will have 3+. And then qualification from a Canadian province or territory, like it's a certificate of qualification that some trades get it, like trade people get it, and that's called a red card certificate. So most of you will not have it if you're offshore. And LMIA, you will not have it, and if you have it, then you get extra points, so you can go yes and no. And you have a nomination certificate from a province, so let's assume that it's no at the moment, and you have a spouse or common law partner, or at least one brother. If you have relatives in Canada, you could yes or no. Most of us don't have it. If you have it, then you can go yes, right? And what is the highest education level for your spouse? So, you need an ECA for your spouse as well. So assuming that your spouse also has a bachelor's degree, and then in the last 10 years, does the spouse or partner have some work experience, and you could go, 5 years or whatever. And do your spouse or common law partner has taken an English language or a French test? So you go yes IELTS, and you go, let's assume that they've got 7 each, right? So 7 each, we'll just assume 7 each. And I'm just doing this to show you that how this thing works. And at the end, when you go calculate your score, this actually gives you points for your core human capital factor, your spouse factor, skill transferability, foreign work experience, and so on, right? Additional points, you haven't got anything, and 421 is what you make. So if you are somewhere near this, you probably will not get a invitation because that the invitation scores with the Canadian system only 400 if you are up at speaking. You're applying for a French program. Similarly, I just want to take a little bit of more time and show you how the Australian system works as well. Now, Australians just have a simple point test, which we have discussed already. And up here, if you see the invitation scores and they do an invitation score as per the occupation. So the minimum score, what is required is about 100 if you are an accountant. And then, if you're an architect, you need 85, 95 for an analyst programmer, that's an ACS occupation. Only the trade occupation, which are carpenters, chefs, chef is about 95, which is quite high. Carpenter, 65. Because carpenter, you have to do a TRA. It's kind of tedious for most of the nationalities. So that's where it comes down to. So what I'm trying to say is, even with the Australian system, it's 100, 85, 95, 100, 85, and you go on. So you can come down to this website, skill select, invitation rounds outcome. Get onto the government website. That's the government website. Don't believe in any private website. They can put any, information there. And this shows you the latest round, the latest scores happening with the Australian system as well. So what the reason why I'm doing this is that you need to know what occupation you are from. So let's say you're an engineer manager, and if you're not making somewhere around 95 points, do not get into this. Secure a job offer, secure yourself first, and then get into this whole game, because this
well, waste your time and money and you will get stuck with this. If you're making 75, 80 points, there's no point doing it. You do it if you have chances of getting a state sponsorship from Australia or the provincial nominee program in the Canadian system. Right? That was it with the point test and what is going on as of August 24. And whatever time in near future you're looking at, maybe 2025 or whatever time, these pages get updated by the government now and then, and you can come down and have a look at your profession, whether it is Canada or the Australian immigration.